There's a universal law that never changes: you reap what you sow. Success isn't something you stumble upon, and it's not something you can manifest without action. It requires work, real, focused, intentional work. And the truth is, most people aren't willing to put in the work it takes to reach the level of success they say they want. Everybody loves the idea of winning, but very few are committed to the process of becoming a winner. They want financial freedom, but won't invest in financial education. They want a successful business, but won't put in the hours to master sales and marketing. They want to be in the top 1%, but they work with the habits of the 99%. It doesn't work like that. Hard work isn't optional, it's the price of entry. It's the first step, the foundation, the unavoidable toll you must pay to move from average to extraordinary. And the reason so many people fail isn't because success is impossible, it's because they aren't willing to do what it takes for as long as it takes. You don't get to control when the harvest comes, but you do get to control whether or not you plant the seeds. Imagine a farmer who complains that he has no crops but never tills the soil, never plants the seed, never waters the ground. That's how most people approach success. They want the harvest, but they don't want the hustle. They want the outcome, but they're unwilling to endure the process. Here's the truth: there is no shortcut to success, but there is a guaranteed formula: work hard and don't stop. Most people give up long before the results show up. They get discouraged because they don't see immediate returns. But the work you do today isn't just about today, it's about building momentum, stacking skills, and creating long-term value. Hard work isn't about instant gratification. It's about planting seeds that will eventually grow into a harvest too big to contain. And let's be clear, hard work doesn't mean busy work. It doesn't mean running in circles with no direction. It means putting in strategic effort on the right things, learning from failure, adapting, and staying consistent. Hard work means pushing past the resistance, outworking your competition, and refusing to quit when things get tough. If you look at anyone who has achieved massive success, you'll find a common theme: they put in the work. They sacrificed, they pushed past obstacles. They stayed up late studying their craft, waking up early to execute their vision. They weren't just wishing for success, they were working for it. And yet people will look at them and say they got lucky. Luck has nothing to do with it. Success follows those who work for it. Focus is the difference between people who struggle for years and those who break through to success in a fraction of the time. It's not just about working hard, it's about working hard on the right things over and over again until you become a master at them. The problem with most people is that they are scattered. They start something, get excited for a few weeks, and then jump to the next thing before they ever see results. They chase every new opportunity, every new business model, every new secret strategy, thinking that success is hiding in the next big idea. But success isn't found in constantly switching lanes. Success is found in staying in one lane long enough to master it. Think about the greatest athletes, musicians, and business leaders. They didn't get there by doing 100 different things halfway. They got there by focusing on one thing until they became world-class at it. Michael Jordan didn't spend his time trying to be good at 10 different sports. He focused on basketball. Tiger Woods didn't jump from sport to sport, he mastered golf. Warren Buffett doesn't invest in every single industry, he focuses on what he knows best. The same applies to business and wealth creation. Most people fail not because they don't have talent, but because they spread themselves too thin. They never go deep enough into one skill, one business, or one industry to truly become an expert. And if you're not an expert, you're competing with people who are, which means you're always going to be behind. Focus isn't just about saying yes to the right things, it's about saying no to everything else. Distractions are everywhere. Social media, emails, random opportunities, unnecessary meetings, all of these things steal your time and your focus. Every time you get distracted, you lose momentum, and the more momentum you lose, the longer it takes to reach your goals. Most people think they're focused, but they're not. They wake up with good intentions, but by the end of the day, they've spent hours scrolling through their phones, watching TV, and responding to things that don't move them forward. They confuse activity with productivity. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're making progress. True focus means cutting out everything that doesn't contribute to your long-term vision. It means getting clear on your priorities and executing them with precision. It means having the discipline to work on one thing at a time, even when you're tempted to chase the next shiny object. And here's something most people don't realize: when you focus on one thing long enough, something incredible happens. You become great at it. You develop skills that set you apart. You gain deep knowledge that others don't have. You start seeing opportunities that were invisible before. Focus isn't just a productivity hack, it's the foundation of mastery. If there's one thing that will keep you from reaching your full potential, it's distractions. And in today's world, distractions are everywhere: on your phone, in your inbox, in your environment, even in your own mind. If you don't control your focus, distractions will control it for you. Most people don't even realize how much they're being pulled away from their goals. They start their day with a plan, but before they know it, they've spent hours scrolling social media, checking notifications, responding to emails, watching TV, or dealing with other people's emergencies. And at the end of the day, they wonder why they haven't made any real progress. See, distractions don't always show up as obvious time wasters. Sometimes they disguise themselves as things that feel productive. You think you're working because you're answering emails, sitting in meetings, or researching new opportunities, but in reality, you're just keeping yourself busy instead of being effective. And then there are the distractions that come in the form of people. Let's be real, some people in your life are not helping you move forward. They might not be doing it on purpose, but every time they bring their negativity, their drama, or their small-minded thinking into your world, they are pulling you further away from your purpose. You've got to learn to protect your energy, because every time you give attention to something that doesn't serve your goals, you're stealing time from what actually matters. Distractions are so dangerous because they don't just waste your time, they break your momentum. Every time you stop working on something important to check your phone, respond to a message, or get sidetracked by something random, you lose focus. And once your focus is gone, it takes time to get it back. Scientists have found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to refocus after a distraction. Now think about how many times you get distracted throughout the day. If you're constantly allowing distractions to pull you away from your work, you're losing hours of productive time every single day. But it's not just external distractions that hold you back. The biggest distractions are the ones happening in your own mind. Self-doubt, overthinking, worrying about what other people think. These are some of the biggest reasons people never take action on their dreams. They get stuck in their heads, constantly second-guessing themselves, talking themselves out of opportunities, and letting fear dictate their decisions. And let's not forget another huge distraction: instant gratification. Too many people trade long-term success for short-term pleasure. They know they should be working on their goals, but instead they choose to waste time because it feels good in the moment. Watching TV, playing video games, partying, scrolling through social media, these things are designed to be addictive. And if you're not careful, they will rob you of your future. The truth is, success requires focus, and focus requires discipline. You have to take control of your environment. You have to train your mind to stay locked in on what truly matters. You have to eliminate the things that are keeping you distracted. Even if that means making difficult choices about how you spend your time and who you spend it with, you don't have the right mindset. Nothing else matters. You can have all the talent in the world, all the best strategies, all the right opportunities, but if your mind is working against you, you will sabotage yourself every single time. That's why success doesn't start with money, skills, or connections. It starts with what's happening inside your head. The problem is most people are walking around with a mindset that is completely out of alignment with success. They've been programmed by their upbringing, their environment, and their past experiences to believe that struggle is normal, that wealth is only for certain people, and that they aren't capable of achieving more. And as long as they hold on to those beliefs, they will never break out of their current situation. Your mind is like a thermostat. It sets the temperature for your entire life. If your mindset is set to average, then no matter how much success you experience, you will always find a way to bring yourself back down to average. If your mindset is set to scarcity, then even if you make a lot of money, you will always feel like it's not enough. But if you set your mindset to abundance and growth, then you will start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You will start expecting success instead of fearing failure. This is why two people can be in the exact same situation but get completely different results. One person sees problems, the other sees possibilities. One person complains about what they don't have, the other figures out how to create what they need. One person waits for someone to save them, the other takes control of their own future. The difference isn't their circumstances, it's their mindset. Most people think success is about external factors, but the truth is success is an inside job. Everything you have in your life right now, your income, your relationships, your level of happiness, is a direct reflection of your mindset. If you want to change your life, you have to start by changing the way you think. And here's the thing, your mind is always listening to you. Every time you tell yourself, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, your subconscious mind takes that as a command. It starts looking for evidence to prove you right. That's why negative people always find more reasons to be negative, and successful people always find ways to keep winning. But the good news is you can reprogram your mind. Just like a computer, you can uninstall the limiting beliefs that have been holding you back and replace them with beliefs that serve you. The key is to be intentional about what you feed your mind. Are you surrounding yourself with people who lift you up or people who pull you down? Are you consuming information that helps you grow or distractions that keep you stuck? Are you speaking life over your future or constantly telling yourself why you can't succeed? Your thoughts create your reality. If you think small, you will live small. If you think like a victim, you will stay a victim. But if you start thinking like a winner, if you start believing in your ability to succeed, if you start acting like the person you want to become, then your entire world will begin to shift. One of the biggest lies society has taught people is that money is earned by trading time. That's why most people are stuck in the cycle of working 40, 50, or even 60 hours a week, barely making enough to cover their bills, and wondering why they can never seem to get ahead. They think the answer to making more money is working more hours, so they take on overtime, get a second job, or hustle harder, yet they still find themselves struggling financially. The truth is, money doesn't follow time, money follows value. You don't get paid for how long you work, you get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. That's why a doctor can make more in 1 hour than a fast food worker makes in a whole week. It's why a high-level consultant can charge $50,000 for a single session while another person struggles to make $50,000 in an entire year. It's not about the hours they put in, it's about the value they provide. Most people have been programmed to believe that working more hours is the only way to earn more money. But if that were true, then the hardest working people would be the richest. The people doing the most labor-intensive jobs, construction workers, janitors, factory workers, would be billionaires. But they're not, because hard work alone doesn't create wealth, high value does. So what determines value? It comes down to skill, impact, and problem solving. The more specialized your skill, the more valuable you become. The bigger the problem you solve, the more money you can command. If you want to make more money, don't ask, how can I work more hours? Ask, how can I increase my value? Look at the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners. They don't get paid by the hour. They get paid based on the results they create. They built businesses, systems, and products that provide massive value to others. That's why they make millions, while the average person struggles to get a raise at their job. If you want to break free from the cycle of trading time for money, you need to shift your mindset from being a worker to being a problem solver. Companies don't pay people because they need employees. They pay people because they need solutions. The more valuable the solution you provide, the more money you will make. Think about this. A brain surgeon doesn't make more money because they work harder. They make more because they've mastered a rare and valuable skill that few people can do. A high-level sales closer doesn't get paid thousands of dollars per deal because they work longer hours. They get paid that much because they have the ability to bring in revenue that a company wouldn't have otherwise made. The mistake most people make is thinking that if they just work hard and stay loyal to their job, they'll eventually get ahead. But that's not how the system works. Employers aren't going to pay you what you're worth. They're going to pay you as little as they can get away with. If you want to earn more, you have to make yourself more valuable. And the best way to do that is to develop high-income skills that solve big problems and generate revenue. Sales, marketing, copywriting, investing, public speaking, business strategy, these are the skills that separate the wealthy from the broke. The more valuable your skill set, the less you have to rely on trading time for money. The wealthy understand this. They know that money is a byproduct of value, so they spend their time learning, growing, and mastering skills that allow them to create more value in the marketplace. Meanwhile, the average person spends their time working harder, hoping for a raise, and wondering why they never get ahead. Everybody wants success, but very few people are willing to do what it actually takes to achieve it. They set big goals, they get excited, they make plans, but when it's time to put in the work, they get distracted, lose motivation, or quit when it gets hard. And that's why most people never reach their full potential. The truth is, success isn't about motivation, it's about discipline. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. Some days you feel like working hard, and some days you don't. But discipline means you show up and do the work whether you feel like it or not. That's what separates the successful from the average. The average person lets their emotions dictate their actions. If they don't feel like waking up early, they hit snooze. If they don't feel like working out, they skip the gym. If they don't feel like making sales calls, they put it off until tomorrow. And then they wonder why their life never changes. Winners operate differently. They understand that success doesn't care about their feelings. They don't wait for motivation to show up, they rely on discipline. They train themselves to do what needs to be done, no matter what. And because of that, they get results while everyone else makes excuses. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's the price you pay for the life you say you want. If you're not willing to be disciplined, then you have to accept that you will never have more than you have right now, because every level of success requires a new level of discipline. Think about elite athletes. They don't train only when they feel like it. They train every single day, whether they're tired, sore, or uninspired. Think about top entrepreneurs. They don't work only when it's convenient. They put in the hours, study their craft, and push themselves beyond their limits even when no one is watching. That's what discipline looks like. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep in. It's saying no to distractions when everyone else is wasting time. It's making the tough choices that most people aren't willing to make. And over time, those choices add up. They compound. They create a level of success that most people will never experience because they weren't willing to stay consistent long enough to see the results. The problem is most people think discipline is a burden. They think it's about restriction, suffering, and missing out on fun. But that's the wrong perspective. Discipline isn't punishment. Discipline is freedom. When you develop the discipline to control your time, your habits, and your decisions, you gain control over your life. You are no longer at the mercy of distractions, temptations, or emotions. You become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, no matter what. And the best part, discipline is a skill. It's not something you're born with, it's something you build. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. At first it's hard, it feels uncomfortable. Your mind will try to talk you out of it. But if you push through, if you stay consistent, if you refuse to let temporary discomfort stop you, eventually discipline becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, success is inevitable. One of the biggest reasons people don't achieve their goals is because they're afraid of failure. They view failure as something to avoid, something to be ashamed of, something that means they aren't cut out for success. But the truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process of success. Every successful person, whether they're an entrepreneur, an athlete, an artist, or a leader, has experienced failure. In fact, failure is not only inevitable, but it is absolutely necessary if you want to grow. Without failure, there are no lessons. Without lessons, there is no growth. Without growth, there is no success. The problem is that most people see failure as a dead end. When they fail, they take it personally. They think, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, or I'll never get this right. They allow a single failure to define them and their capabilities. And this is where they make a huge mistake. Failure is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of the fact that you're trying. It's a signal that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, that you're pushing yourself to new heights, and that you're testing your limits. Every time you fail, you learn something about what doesn't work, and with each lesson, you get closer to what has worked. When Thomas Edison was asked about his many failed attempts to invent the light bulb, he didn't see them as failures. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's the mindset you need to develop if you want to achieve greatness. Failure isn't something to fear, it's an opportunity to get better. Think about the first time you tried to do anything new. The first time you tried to ride a bike, you probably fell. The first time you tried to walk, you stumbled. The first time you tried to cook, you probably burned something, but you didn't give up, did you? You kept trying, you kept learning, and over time you got better, until riding a bike, walking, and cooking became second nature. The same principle applies to any goal you set. Whether it's building a business, learning a new skill, or getting in shape, failure is part of the process. The key is not to avoid it, but to embrace it. Each failure brings you closer to the success you desire because each failure is a lesson that teaches you what you need to know in order to succeed. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is how they respond to failure. Successful people don't see failure as a reason to quit. They see it as an opportunity to learn, grow, and adjust. They use failure as fuel to keep moving forward. They don't take it personally, they take it strategically. They analyze what went wrong, adjust their approach, and try again with a better understanding of the situation. On the other hand, unsuccessful people allow failure to defeat them. They give up, they quit, they let their mistakes define them. Instead of using failure as a stepping stone, they use it as an excuse to stop. But the truth is, every successful person has failed more times than they can count. The difference is they didn't let those failures stop them. Here's the key, failure is not permanent. It's just a temporary setback on your way to success. In fact, some of the most successful people in the world have had the most public failures. But they didn't let those failures define them, they used them as stepping stones to success. So the next time you fail, don't view it as a defeat. View it as a lesson, a necessary step toward your ultimate success. And keep going. Keep learning, keep growing. Success doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come from bursts of effort or sudden inspiration. Real, lasting success is built through consistent effort over time. This is where most people fail. They expect quick results. And when those results don't show up immediately, they give up. But consistency is what separates the winners from the quitters. If you want to see massive growth, you have to learn to show up every single day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, and even when you're not seeing immediate results. It's easy to be motivated at the start of a project or goal. But the true test of success is whether or not you can remain consistent when the initial excitement wears off and the work becomes repetitive or difficult. Think about the gym. Most people start their fitness journey with a burst of energy. They're motivated, they're excited, and they're ready to transform their bodies. But after a few weeks, when they don't see dramatic changes, they begin to lose motivation. They start skipping workouts, they stop eating right, and before long, they're back to square one. The people who succeed in the gym, however, are the ones who stay consistent even when the results aren't immediately visible. They show up day after day, week after week, putting in the work, and over time, those small efforts compound into massive results. The same principle applies to business, to learning a new skill, to developing any new habit. It's not about doing everything perfectly from the start. It's about showing up and doing the work consistently, no matter what. Consistency compounds. Every small effort you make, every little step forward you take, contributes to your progress. And when you show up day after day, those small efforts add up to create monumental success. What most people don't realize is that success isn't about taking massive, dramatic actions every single day. It's about taking small, meaningful actions that, when compounded over time, lead to extraordinary results. A few minutes of work every day, a few hours of effort every week, those things add up. But they only add up if you stay consistent. This is why so many people fail to achieve their goals. They lack the consistency to keep going when the excitement fades. They start strong but lose steam before they ever reach the finish line. But if you can commit to consistent effort, even when the path isn't clear, even when you don't see immediate results, you will eventually break through. Think about the bamboo tree. When it's first planted, it takes several years before it even breaks through the soil. During that time, the roots are growing deep underground, establishing a foundation that will allow it to grow tall and strong. But even though it seems like nothing is happening, the tree is preparing for its eventual growth. Then when it finally breaks through the surface, it can grow up to 80 feet in just a few weeks. The years of invisible growth were necessary for the tree to reach its full potential. The same is true for your goals. In the early stages, you may not see much progress, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Your consistent effort is laying the foundation for future success. And remember, consistency isn't about perfection. It's about showing up even when you're not feeling your best, when things aren't going perfectly, when obstacles arise. It's about pushing through the tough days and keeping your eye on the long-term vision. The people who succeed are the ones who keep going, even when the path isn't easy or smooth. They don't quit after one failure. They don't stop after one setback. They stay the course day in and day out, knowing that every action they take, no matter how small, brings them closer to their goal.